What's up, guys? Today I'm going to talk about my top 23 players 23 years old or under in the NBA today. This is all my opinion. Comment below if I overrated someone or underrated someone. And I'm just doing this for fun. So, with that being said, let's get right into it. At 23, I have Sadiq Bey. He was a rookie last year, picked 19th overall. He's a big piece of the Pistons. He can shoot very well, and he can play defense. He was 22 years old, but he wasn't on a great team. That's what brings him down a little. I think he's better than all the honorable mentions. That's debatable, but he's definitely in that area of honorable mentions to 23. And right now, he's a low floor guy. That's why I put him here. At 22 on this list, I have Dort. We all know who Dort is from the Thunder this season. He only had 14 points per game this season, but it was okay efficiency. What people know him for is his defense, and he plays great defense, and he has improved a ton on offense. And while he won't be this team's leading scorer in the future, probably because of Shea, he will be an impactful player, especially with his growth on offense and defense. His three-point percentage took a huge leap this season, and his overall offensive game looked way better. I would have him over any of the guys below him, like Saddiq Bey and all the honorable mentions, even if he is on a losing team. Lonzo Ball is 23 years old, and he's very well known. I'm sure all of you know him. He's entering free agency this offseason. It may change teams, but talking about his play, he averaged 14.6 points with good defense. We saw him as a playmaker, and we saw him play great leaps as a shooter this season. He fixed his form over the past few seasons, and Lonzo is a great fit besides Zion. But he was nothing more than a third option to Zion and Brandon Ingram. The reason I have him better than some other rookies is because Lonzo's upside isn't the highest. Maybe he's not going to be a number one option, and that's just my opinion. I don't think he'll be a number one option, but he could be. And while he does have a lot of great media attention, or not so great media attention sometimes, I don't think he can be the number one option. He also probably will be. He isn't as good as some of these guys right above him, and his team wasn't that successful overall. Just like Dort's team, a lot of these guys' teams aren't successful because they're so young. At 20, I put a rookie, Tyrese Haliburton. We all know Tyrese. I made a video about him, and he averaged only 13 points per game this season, so you might be wondering, why is he so good? He's on a losing team, and he wasn't the best scorer. Well, this isn't why he's ranked so over some of those players. I expect Tyrese to have a major jump next season in the next 1 to 2 years, especially since Buddy Hield's contract is expiring soon. Tyrese is a Swiss Army knife that surprised everyone that he could shoot. He can shoot. He's an amazing shooter, over 40% on the season. And I made a video about him if you want to know more about him, but Tyrese Haliburton, my pick for 20. This may be a surprise for most people, but I like Johnathan Isaac, and I put him here. You can make an argument for many of the Magic players. They have a lot of great young talent. But I think Johnathan Isaac is the best player, the most upside on the Magic. He didn't even play last season, but in 2019 to 2020, he averaged 11.9 points per game, basically 12 points per game. And what makes Isaac such a good prospect in my eyes is his frame and his defense. He's playing the 3. He's 6'11". He's going to fit better at the 4. And now that Aaron Gordon isn't there, he can play that position. We'll see who they draft, but they will probably start Isaac. And he does have injury concerns. He wasn't on a winning team, but similar, and he has super high upside in my opinion, but he is injury prone. We all know Anthony Edwards, number 1 pick to the Timberwolves, but he has so much athletic upside. At first glance, you see his dazzling highlights, eye-popping stats, wild athleticism, but I can't put Ant any higher than this because his efficiency and his lack of team success. Yes, all the guys below him are on losing teams too, and even some of the guys above him are on losing teams. But if I ignored his team, I'm just looking at his player. Yes, he does have great upside, but being on the Timberwolves, he also has great downside, and that's my opinion. At 17, I have Jarrett Allen. Jarrett Allen's known as a rim runner, and after he was traded to Cleveland, he's doing very well. He only averaged 13 points, 2 points per game, but He has some really big games in Cleveland. Jarrett Allen at 17 might be a little high, but many people like him, and I like him. And maybe many people might think I'm overrating him, but I think he could fit with Mobley or Green in the draft. He has shown us how much potential he can have, and he'll probably be a big name free agent in a few years. Jaren Jackson Jr. could be way higher on this list if he didn't have the concerns about his health. Jaren Jackson Jr. plays for Grizzlies, but he has a lot of injury problems, and he is a stretch big, so he can get into foul trouble. His injuries and size have held him back from blossoming into a great player. And as far as this list goes, many people might think he's too low, some people might think he's too high, but in my opinion, all the injuries have decreased his value. His value for a team wouldn't be any higher than anyone above him, and him as a player, the injuries are just too concerning. RJ Barrett, we all know him as the Knicks' second best player. He's 21 years old and started 72 games for the Knicks. He also got his three-point efficiency to 40% this season and almost got his two-point efficiency to 50%. This season, he was more consistent, and he scored 17.6 points per game and was a major piece for the Knicks' great season. I think RJ could be a number one option over Randall in the future, but being 21 years old and putting up this good of numbers, he has to be this high on this list for me. He can't be any lower than this. We all know who Lamelo is, how he impacted his team this season, and I think this warrants him to be above all the players below him, and maybe he should have been closer to Ant. Many people think Ant is a better player than Lamelo, but I think Lamelo, he won Rookie of the Year. He's more impactful player to his team, and I don't want to overrate the rookie value. I don't want to put him above this spot, above some of the guys above Lamelo right now. And I don't think that's fair, the guys above, because Lamelo's only played one season, unproven. Yes, this could be used for all the players below. They're only 23 or younger, but I digress. Alright, so Collin Sexton. I know a lot of people hate this Collin Sexton. Way too high. But he has been a consistently good scorer for the past few seasons on a bad team like Ant and other guys. But since he's been there for the last few seasons, I'm going to put him higher. Maybe this is a little too high. Maybe over RJ and LaMelo, that's a little too high. But I think 13 is still a good spot for him. He's a good scorer. Maybe not the best playmaker, but he's only 23, 22 years old. So good player. His trade value is terrible right now because Cleveland's trying to trade him. Media is flaming him for he's not a good player, but he's a great player, in my opinion. John Collins has been a great player for the Hawks over the past few seasons. He was an instrumental part in the Hawks' success in the playoffs. He had good splits in the playoffs and helped the team overcome a ton of teams, going all the way to the semifinals or the finals. He averaged 17.6 points per game in the season. It was efficient, and his value is an all-time high right now. Maybe not all-time, but has a ton of value. He's going to get a bag this offseason, a ton of money. And a team is expected to pay him a ton of money, obviously, and they won't regret getting him on their team. He's more proven than every guy's below him. Even if he is a second option, he's a second option to Trae Young. Keldon Johnson will be given a lot of scoring responsibilities next year for the Spurs if DeMar DeRozan leaves. Even if he doesn't leave, he's still going to have an increased scoring role. He showed us how good he already was. He made Team USA, being the youngest player there. And Keldon is good on defense. He's an explosive offensive player. I made a whole video about his game if you want to watch that. See more about his game. As far as Keldon Johnson getting number 12 spot or 11 spot, he isn't more proven than guys like John Collins. He hasn't had the team success for guys like RJ Barrett. And he's not even the number one option on his team right now. So what makes him number 11 option? And ranking him might be contradictory to how I've ranked the rest of the guys on the list. I think Keldon Johnson could win MIP next year. He can be the leader of Spurs next year. He's going to be a great player next year. And I think he already has that level of play. We all know what effect Ja had on his team when coming to the league. Ja may not be the 30-point per game guy right now, and he may never be that guy, but the first year he was there, he led his team to the playoffs. And when the playoffs came, he went all out. Different gear. He went amazing in the playoffs. The Grizzlies need to put some scores around him, some wing scores, to be successful. But he has the potential to be a very good player, and he already is a very good player in his second season. I put DeAndre Ayton at number 9. I didn't want to overrate DeAndre Ayton because I know his awesome playoffs run. He did show he was super good. He was super good in the pick and roll, super good screener with CP3 and Devin Booker. He played really good defense too. DeAndre Ayton still has a lot of potential to be a guy like Embiid, but he isn't there right now. He is really good right now, but not. He didn't really show that in the regular season. He showed in the playoffs. So he's at number 9 right now. De'Aaron Fox, in my opinion, is underrated. Yes, he might not have team success right now, but the guys below him on this list, he still has incredible skills, probably more skill than anybody below him. He can lead a team. Yes, he wasn't best on defense, but he led his team offensively. His team wasn't great this season due to his defense or due to the whole team's defense. But when you have teams as bad as the Kings, most people won't like him here just because of his lack of team success. He's a quick guard, run the offense. I may be biased because I want him to succeed, but I think we can all agree he's pretty good. At 7, I have MPJ. I did a whole video about him recently, but people call him the next Durant. He shoots lights out. He's a good finisher. He isn't great on defense, but MPJ has had great playoff success with his team. For a young player and being second leading scorer on his team. And this pushes him up this list for me. We all know MPJ's value. He played amazing in the playoffs and the regular season this season. But once Jamal Murray comes back, he goes back to being a third option scorer. And that will limit him offensively. And he's not the best defensively. He needs to find a way he needs to find a team or a way that encourages his offensive game. Shea was on a terrible team this season, and you might wonder if Ant and those other guys are ranked so low on terrible teams, why isn't he ranked so low? Because he's on a terrible team. He's putting up stats, and while this is a valid point, I think Shea has shown he can be successful on a good team. And with CP3, he had CP3 as a mentor. He was successful with them, and we all know what type of guy Shea is. And I don't think anyone will say he's too high at number 6. Brandon Ingram is the second option to Zion. He has been one of those players that made the All-Star team, one of the only players on this list, and we all know he's lengthy, small forward, he can score. Since Zion came to New Orleans, he hasn't been that number 1 guy. Brandon Ingram is an impressive player, but his defense hasn't been great in recent years. Overall, we need to know Brandon Ingram. This may be a bit high for some people, but I think he deserves to be this high because he was the number 1 option until Zion was there. He made an all-star team. He's that good, in my opinion. If he made an all-star team, I mean, yes, he's at number 5. Yes, he's above Shea and guys like that, but he made an all-star team. He was a very good scorer. He's efficient from 3. He's not on a winning team, and that's the same point with Shea, but there's a ton of guys, like the top 3 guys are on winning teams. And if Brandon Ingram was on a winning team, I would probably put him higher. I mean, imagine how good people would rank Zion if he was in the playoffs or if he was like a 5 seed in the playoffs. Zion is a guy everyone watching and everyone knows about. He has only played last season, and he played very well. Zion scored most of the team's points and dunks near the basket. We all know that. His team didn't make the playoffs, and they weren't that good, frankly. They didn't have that many good players, and they weren't very switchable on defense. And because of this, I don't consider them better than Trae Young. I wouldn't consider Zion better than Trae Young. He has good potential to be an interior defender, maybe even better than Trae Young in the future, but as far as right now and as far as downside goes, Trae Young has a way higher downside because he's already been way proven as a winner and as a playoff player. and as a scorer. And hopefully Zion can develop his shot. That'd be nice to see Zion with a shot. It would really help his game. With Zion, there are injury concerns. However, right now is better than everyone below him. Trae is one of the best scorers on the list. He led his team all the way to the semifinals last year. However, he's not as good as anyone above him. He isn't great on defense, but is still a dazzling offensive player. You can't deny that. Trae Young needs to work on his efficiency from three. Yes, he got better from for it this season. But you know that foul move he does? I'm pretty sure they're calling that offensive foul next season. So he'll have to work on not drawing so many fouls. But he had success in the playoffs, and he led his team all the way to Giannis. He beat a ton of great teams, and at such a young age, you have to put him with guys like you have to put him above guys like Zion who haven't even made the playoffs. We all know Tatum. He's 24 in a few days, but he still counts on this list. I'd consider Tatum over a few guys like Trae and Zion. Tatum has more success in a longer period of time. You could argue Trae has led his team farther than playoffs. I would pick Tatum because Tatum is a good defender, great scorer, and I know a lot of people hate Young more where he jumps into the defender, you know that move. Other than that, we all know who Tatum is, Celtics player, Celtics star. You know, he gets a lot of media attention because he's on Boston Bruins, or not the Bruins, the Celtics, sorry. And yeah, we all know. We all know Jason Tatum. We all know why Luka's here at number one. Amazing score. It's Luka. Yeah, we know. I won't explain too much. If you disagree with any of my picks, comment below which pick and why. And yeah, I tried to make this video a little shorter, just not to over-explain some of the guys. I know you guys know a lot of stuff about these top guys like Trae Young, Brandon Ingram. So yeah, that's all. Like and sub if you want, and see you next time.